Ever pondered what would transpire if humanity collectively fell asleep for 1,000 years? A millennium-long nap, if you will. Picture this. One ordinary day, every single human being, young or old, suddenly succumbs to an overwhelming wave of drowsiness. Eyelids become unbearable weights, and within moments, the world drifts into a profound slumber. This isn't your typical Sunday afternoon nap. Oh no. This is a sleep so deep it halts the hands of time. The first few moments might seem serene, even peaceful. But soon, the absence of human activity would become glaringly obvious. The incessant hum of life, usually so ubiquitous, would dwindle into an unsettling quiet. Without the constant tending of human hands, our power plants would cease to function. The once roaring generators would fall silent, plunging the world into darkness. Streetlights would flicker out, homes would grow cold, and the digital heartbeat of our society would flatline. The internet, our global communication network, would falter and eventually fail. Emails would go unread, calls unanswered, and the steady stream of information we've grown so accustomed to would come to a sudden halt. Airplanes would tumble from the sky, their pilots locked in sleep. Trains would derail, cars would crash, and ships would run aground. Without us, the world would become a tableau of abandoned machinery and silent cities. Our bustling metropolises, usually teeming with life, would transform into ghost towns overnight. Picture New York City, the city that never sleeps, enveloped in a blanket of tranquility. Or imagine Paris, the city of lights, plunged into darkness. The Eiffel Tower, once a beacon of human achievement, would stand as a silent sentinel in the quiet night. The world as we know it would come to a standstill, and Mother Nature would be the only one awake to witness it. Humanity's prolonged slumber would mark the beginning of a new era, an era where the hands of time would be guided by the whims of nature. Imagine our bustling world suddenly frozen in time, a quiet, eerie silence reigning supreme. As humans sleep, the Earth doesn't. So what happens to our planet? Well, imagine the world as a stage, and for 1,000 years the main actors, us humans, take a long intermission. The spotlight shifts to Mother Nature, who never really left the stage even when we were dominating the scene. The first thing you'd notice is the thriving wildlife. Devoid of human intervention, animal populations would explode. Predators would keep the balance, ensuring that no single species dominates. Unhindered by human obstacles, migratory patterns would return to their ancient rhythms. The jungles, the deserts, the mountains, and the oceans would teem with life, unseen in the modern age. Now let's turn our attention to our concrete jungles. As time ticks by, vegetation would take over, breaking through the asphalt and concrete. Vines would crawl up the skyscrapers, and trees would sprout in the middle of highways. Our cities, once bustling with life and noise, would transform into silent green cathedrals, standing as a testament to a bygone era. What about our climate? Without human-made pollution, the Earth's atmosphere would start to heal. Temperatures would stabilize and weather patterns might return to their natural state. However, it's also possible that the absence of human-induced activities could trigger shifts in climate, the nature of which is hard to predict. But not all changes would be positive. Domesticated animals and pets, heavily reliant on humans for survival, would face a grim fate. Many would likely go extinct, unable to fend for themselves in the wild. Even farm animals, bred over generations for human consumption, would struggle to survive. Despite these losses, one thing is clear. In our 1,000-year slumber, the Earth would undergo a profound transformation. Landscapes would shift, species would rise and fall, and climates would fluctuate. But amidst all these changes, one constant remains. In our absence, nature would flourish, reclaiming the lands we once dominated. What about our concrete jungles, our architectural marvels, you may wonder? Well, the future for them in this grand sleep experiment is not so bright. Imagine, if you will, the bustling cities of our time. Skyscrapers stretching towards the sky, roads sprawling like veins across the landscape, bridges connecting distant lands. These are the monuments of our civilization, the physical manifestations of our collective ingenuity. But without us, without our constant vigilance and upkeep, they would start to crumble. Our buildings, even the most robust ones, are not designed to last indefinitely. They need regular maintenance, and without it, they would begin to deteriorate. Concrete would crack, metal would rust, glass would shatter. Over time, the elements would take their toll. Water, wind, heat, cold. They would slowly but surely eat away at our structures. The skyscrapers, those towering symbols of human ambition, would be among the first to go. Without constant attention, they would become unstable, their foundations weak. Eventually, they would collapse, creating a domino effect that would bring down other buildings in their vicinity. And what about our roads, our highways, our bridges? They too would fare no better. Nature, ever relentless, would reclaim them. Weeds would sprout from cracks in the asphalt, trees would grow where once there were traffic lanes, rivers would wash away bridges. Over time, our cities would become unrecognizable, more akin to ruins than the bustling metropolises we know today. Our infrastructure, our grand structures, the testament of human achievement, they all rely on us. They require our constant care, our attention, our labor. Without us, they stand no chance against the relentless march of time and the unforgiving forces of nature. So, after 1,000 years of human slumber, what would be left of our cities, our architectural marvels? Ruins mostly. Shadows of their former glory, overtaken by nature, crumbling under the weight of time. Our grand structures, left to battle time and elements, would eventually succumb. Technology, an integral part of our lives, what becomes of it? Imagine a world where the hum of electricity has faded into silence, where satellites once gleaming in the night sky are now mere specters of their former selves. This is the world we'd wake up to after 1,000-year slumber. A world where technology has been left to its own devices. Without our constant upkeep, technology would begin to crumble. The first to go would likely be our data. You see, data isn't etched in stone. It's stored on fragile servers and hard drives, susceptible to the ravages of time. A millennium is more than enough time for data to degrade, for bits to flip, for servers to fail. The digital memories of an entire civilization, our photos, our documents, our music would vanish like tears in rain. And then there are our satellites, those silent sentinels in the sky. Without regular course corrections, their orbits would decay. One by one, they'd plummet back to Earth, burning up in a spectacular meteoric blaze. GPS, telecommunications, weather forecasting, all would go silent, leaving the sky a lot emptier than we remember. And of course, there's the internet, that sprawling digital behemoth that connects us all. Without human intervention, the servers that form the backbone of the internet would fail. The World Wide Web would become a ghost town, a web of broken links and 404 errors. 1,000 years of neglect would turn this modern marvel into a shadow of its former self. The technology we've come to depend on, the technology we've poured our blood, sweat and tears into creating, would degrade and become obsolete. Left unattended, our computers, our phones, our satellites, all would fall into ruin. In the grand scheme of things, 1,000 years isn't that long, but for our technology, it's an eternity. Our creations, once the pinnacle of innovation, would be reduced to nothing more than rusting hunks of metal and plastic. Our technological achievements, left unattended, would turn into forgotten relics. After a millennium-long slumber, humanity awakens. What awaits them? Imagine, if you will, a world where the alarm clock hasn't rung in 1,000 years. Suddenly, the snooze button is off, and everyone is coming out of the longest nap in history. It's not exactly a stretch to say that waking up would be disorienting, to say the least. The world they once knew is no more. The familiar urban landscapes have been replaced by sprawling forests and overgrown ruins. The technology that once was second nature is now as foreign as stone tablets were to us. The knowledge, the skills, the memories, all have faded away over the course of 1,000 years. The challenges they would face are immense. There's the obvious physical toll, of course. 1,000 years of sleep isn't exactly great for your muscle tone, but beyond that there's the struggle to understand and adapt to a world that has moved on without them. It's like waking up on a different planet. They would have to learn everything from scratch. How to hunt, how to gather, how to build. The knowledge of their ancestors, once taken for granted, would now be a precious commodity. Everything from making fire to cultivating crops would have to be rediscovered. And then, there's the emotional toll. Imagine waking up and realizing that everyone you once knew is long gone. That the world you once knew is nothing more than a distant memory. The loss, the grief, the confusion, it would be overwhelming. But humans are adaptable. They're survivors. They would band together, pool their knowledge, and slowly but surely start to rebuild. It would be a long, hard journey, but one they would undertake with determination and hope. In the end, they would find a way to survive, to thrive, to carve out a new life in this strange new world. But it wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be quick. And it certainly wouldn't be the world they once knew. Awakening after a millennium, humans would find themselves strangers in their own world. So, 1,000 years of sleep, what does it all mean? Imagine waking up to a world where nature has reclaimed its territory. Our once thriving infrastructure has crumbled into ruins, and the technology we once knew is now a forgotten relic. The challenges would be immense, a testament to the relentless march of time. But it's in our nature to adapt, to overcome, to rebuild. 1,000 years of sleep would transform our world, leaving us to rediscover, adapt, and rebuild.